#books. So today I thought I'd pop on for a quick video where I talk about some of my favorite podcasts that I've been listening to recently. So I did a part 1 of this kind of video about a year ago, I think it was. If you're interested in that video, I'll definitely can link it below or above, or it'll be linked somewhere. And I still love all those podcasts that I talked about in that video. They're still some of my absolute favorites, but I've recently kind of fallen back in love with podcasts because I don't have as long of a commute anymore, so I kind of had stopped listening to them for a while. But recently, I found a couple new favorites that I wanted to share with you guys, and I like putting them on like when I'm cleaning the house or I'm just doing something that's kind of mindless that I can do like 2 things at once. And of course, they are the best thing ever for car trips. So I've got 4 here that are my favorites, and then like a bonus one at the end. So all these are going to be like book-related podcasts because obviously like it's a book channel, plus that's mostly what I listen to, aside from a couple other things. But and also they are mostly all like romance related, so hopefully you guys like those. If you guys have any other book related podcasts or otherwise podcasts that you think I would enjoy, definitely let me know down below because I'm always on the lookout for them, and I find sometimes it's hard to find good ones that I really enjoy. So anyways, these are going to be a few of my favorite podcasts. The first one that kind of like reintroduced my love of podcasts is a podcast called Smart Women Read Romance. I love this podcast. It is fantastic. It is run by a aunt and like niece duo who both like love reading and romance and kind of like bonded over that. So it's Justin and her aunt Juliet, and Juliet Cross is actually an author, so I think that's really cool as well. So I just think these girls have like the funnest banter. It's a really fun podcast. It's very like kind of lighthearted, and it's just a great entertaining read. So for them, what they typically do is they pick a book that they're going to discuss, and they let you know ahead of time so you can read it if you want to follow along. And they have like mini episodes too, which will typically be on like a certain topic. Like they had like a book boyfriend one, and then they've had like girl crushes, things like that are more like topical rather than like a book. And I just have to say, the way they go through, like, because obviously I've listened to some of the ones that I've read the books for, and they fangirl so good. Like, it feels like you're talking to a friend when you listen to it, and you're fangirling like right along with them. In particular, I love their episode that was on, oh gosh, Beard Science. Is that the one with Cletus for the Winston brothers? I listened to that episode, and it was just like they were inside my head, and I loved it. So if you want to fangirl right along and just fall in love with romance and books, they also have really good recommendations. So I love that one. Again, it's called Smart Women Read Romance. Definitely try and link down below like the link to their podcast. I know I listen to it on Apple Podcasts, but I'm sure it's available other places as well. My next favorite is the Literally Us podcast, and this is run by Gabby and Cameron, and I actually found out about them through Instagram. I think most of these I actually found out through Instagram, but in particular, I believe I followed Gabby already on Instagram, and I really, enjoyed her posts and liked her a lot. So when she said they were coming out with a podcast with her and a friend, I of course had to listen to it. And this is another great one. They kind of have some discussion videos. I know they had one on like their TBR, or like in general TBRs, and then they also do kind of like book reviews, discussions as well. Like I know they had one on the Honeymooners, and a couple obviously other books. I'm just off the top of my head, that's what I can remember, and I love them. Again, they're friends, so it's fun listening to two girlfriends like talk about romance books. I just think that in general, that's a great recipe for something that's going to be fun to listen to. I just think they have a great dynamic between the two of them, and it was really interesting too hearing them talk about how they both got into reading romance. I always find that really cool and kind of fascinating because everybody has a different story on that front. So I love them. Again, this one's called the Literally Us podcast, and they started a few months ago, so they are newer. Most of these are newer. So they don't have like a ton of episodes, but they've got at least a good handful that you can go back and listen to. And obviously I think it's fun when you can follow along. So that's why I think newer ones can be kind of fun too. Another new favorite is called Tea and Strumpets. And this in particular is a historical romance podcast. So both of the ones I mentioned previously, I probably should have mentioned, they read both kind of historical romance and contemporary. I know, especially the Smart Women Read Romance, they definitely do talk about historical romance as well, but also contemporary. Whereas Tea and Strumpets, just started I want to say about 2 months ago. They've got the most gorgeous like pictures and things like that on their Instagram account, so definitely go check them out on Instagram. But they are primarily, I believe, going to stick to historical romance. Right now, they are going through the Pennyroyal Green series with by Julianne Long, which I haven't read, but I did listen to their episodes because they say, I think in their intro episode, like even if you haven't read it, you can still listen to the episode and it just gets you really hyped to go pick up the book because obviously it's a romance, you kind of know what's gonna happen. So to me, it's not like spoilery per se, but everyone has their own opinion. If you'd rather read the book, you definitely can. But I love listening to the girls talk about the books. They definitely have really good discussions going on. It's not just talking about the book. Obviously that's the main topic, but there are definitely other topics that they talk about at the same time, just having to do with like tropes and historical romance in general. And honestly, I just love historical romance so much that finding other people to fangirl over it with is a great thing because I think it's gaining kind of steam in the reading world, but for a long time I felt like no one else read historical, so it's always fun to find someone else. So definitely check them out, especially if you like historical romance. Last one I wanted to suggest is called Women with Books, and it's by Lindsay Emery, who is the author who actually like runs it, not by her, but it's like she runs the podcast, it's her podcast. And she's the author who wrote a book I read earlier, which I cannot think of the name of right now. Royal Runaway. There it is. I didn't grab the book, but she wrote The Royal Runaway, and I really liked it. So she has a lot of authors on hers, which I think is interesting because she is an author. So like I know I listened to her interview with Carrie Winfrey, who wrote Waiting for Tom Hanks, and I just think it's really interesting when authors kind of interview and talk with other authors, kind of get some like behind the scenes type stuff and kind of what's going on, how they come up with the ideas. I think that's fascinating. So if you like that kind of thing, I don't think all her episodes have authors. I could be wrong, I can't remember, but in general, I just think she's a really good host and it's really fun topics that she talks about. Lastly, I wanted to mention a podcast that I haven't personally listened to yet. It's on my list to pick up or listen to, but everybody seems to love it. So I wanted to throw it out there in case you're looking for a new one and haven't heard of it. And it's called The Fated Mates Podcast. And it is run by Sarah McLean, the historical romance author, as well as Jen from Jen Reads Romance, which I know Jen is just really big in the romance world. Like I know she has a blog and she's really big on like Instagram and Twitter and things like that. Definitely knows her romance stuff. So the two of them run it. And I know previously they were discussing Cressley Cole's Immortals After Dark series, which is part of the reason I didn't listen to it originally because I haven't read that series. But I think you might be able to listen to it regardless, and I think they finished that. So maybe they're gonna do something else. It just seems like everyone and their brother is loving the podcast. So again, it's called Fated Mates, and I definitely personally wanna check it out. So if I do, I'll report back, but it sounds amazing. So I don't see how it could go wrong. All right, guys, so those are some of my favorite podcasts I've been listening to recently. I hope you guys find new ones to maybe check out, or if you listen to these as well, like let me know your thoughts or just let me know what you love about them. Again, if you have any good recommendations for me, please let me know down below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.